Good afternoon and welcome to the February 9th, 2021 policy session of the Phoenix City Council, which will also include a formal meeting agendized vote as part of today's events. I will call the meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado. I apologize. Councilwoman Guardado.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Thank you all for joining us today. We will begin with council requests for information and follow-up. Do any council members have updates today?
Yep. Mayor?
Councilwoman Pastor.
Okay. So this week, my office delivered 50 laptops to 1 in 10, a local nonprofit dedicated to serving and assisting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning LGBTQ youth in support the organization's social distance resources without social isolation. Tomorrow, I'll be hosting a virtual community coffee from 8 to 9. People can call my office at 602-262-7747 to receive the link to participate. The agenda will include COVID-19 updates with information about the second mobile testing ban, Water Department information regarding the proposed water rate increases, and General District 4 updates. I hope the residents will join us. Finally, I'd like to thank staff from the Housing and Finance Real Estate Division for a job well done in helping care for one of the Phoenix vulnerable populations. The city recently purchased a former hotel property to meet the housing needs of unsheltered U.S. vets. This partnership with U.S. vets will help Phoenix in supporting those individuals who've given so much. I also want to thank U-Haul for their support in this project as they will be helping with the moving needs. Thank you, Mayor. This completes my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to remind everyone that Maryville Park has a COVID testing site open every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Appointments are recommended but not required, and walk-ups are accepted. Secondly, I wanted to thank the leadership of Westmark for hosting a virtual meeting last week where I was able to speak about the importance of a regional approach to addressing homelessness. I underscored the cities of Phoenix's commitment to finding solutions and working with our West Valley neighbors. I also invited West Valley representatives to join me on a tour of Project Haven. And I am happy to report that in 2 weeks, we will be taking the tour with CAST, District 8, and representatives from the Maricopa area of governments and the city of Goodyear. So that's all very exciting. And then also to report, last week I took a tour of the GCU campus with President Mueller, and I was able to see firsthand how organized they are and the great job that they're doing on giving out the vaccines. As of last week, I'm not sure if anything has changed this week, but as of last week, they were the only ones that were still taking walk-ups, people walking up, and they were helping people register, getting an email, and making sure that everyone in that community that's eligible for a vaccine was getting a vaccine. So I just want to thank GCU for all of their efforts and everything that they are doing to help out our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any additional council updates?
Mayor,
Councilwoman Vice Mayor Williams.
I just want to thank staff. I went down to get the vaccine, and I will tell everyone, do not fear it. It's quick. I was in and out of there, even with the waiting period, in less than an hour, and I've had no side effects whatsoever. I want to encourage city staff especially, go get the shot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May we all have such a successful experience. Councilwoman Stark?
Actually, I don't have anything, but I will say I'm getting my shot tomorrow at State Farm Stadium, and my husband and I are very excited. We finally qualify. That means we're old, so 65 and older, but we're really quite excited. We got through the portal, and hopefully that it will be success for us tomorrow. I feel encouraged by hearing the vice mayor's story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vaccination is so important. All right. Well, I would like to start off today's meeting by recognizing two women who've been incredibly important to the city of Phoenix and have sadly passed, but leave amazing legacies. One is Barbara Lubin, who has been a force for better elections, better candidates, and a stronger democracy in Arizona for quite a while. And I'm thankful for her knowledge and her commitment to this community. One of the City of Phoenix's own, Debbie Dillon, passed last week. One of her proudest accomplishments was founding College Depot, a free full-service college access center at Burton Bar Library. It's developed into a great resource center for our high school students who are seeking information about college, the FAFSA, financial aid, scholarships. There are so many young people in Phoenix who have a brighter future because of Debbie Dillon and the work that she set up, which we continue ably today. So thank you to her friends and family and all those who worked with her. We honor her legacy and the brighter future we have as a city. And lastly, I want to offer congratulations to our Assistant City Manager, Jeff Barton, on his promotion. He has played a key role in building a stronger city, but we know the best is in front of him, and thank you, congratulations. With that, we do not have a consent agenda today, so I will turn to our city manager for a brief update.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for remembering and recognizing Debbie Dillon, who was a colleague of many people here at the city. She was a coworker of mine as well. And more importantly, she was a good friend. And so I've appreciated the mayor, you and the council members who have remembered Debbie and her contribution. It's a good reminder to us all about the impact that public servants can make, just doing good work every day. So thank you for that. I also want to thank Councilwoman Pastor for recognizing our staff who worked on the U.S. Vets hotel acquisition, just to recognize the departments led by Ingra Erickson, our Deputy City Manager, Denise Olson, our Chief Financial Officer, and I have to say special words for Cindy Stotler, who really was the Iron Man of that task as she worked through a lot of things to bring that project to the end. But mostly thank you to the council for committing, believing in committing the money to do that. I think you all will look back on that in years to come as a great accomplishment of this council to provide housing for some of our most vulnerable members of our community who served. So thank you for that. In terms of the budget, I just want to mention we are kicking off the budget season. This is Vice Mayor Williams' last chance to go through the inventory of programs, which was published this week. I know Councilwoman Williams will have it dog-eared, Post-it notes, and highlighted, as will many of the rest of you. But this, in all seriousness, this document is a part of our transparency effort in the budget. The Budget and Research Department, led by Amber Williamson, puts together this document to identify all the programs in the city and their costs so that it's a foundation for the council to make budget decisions. In 2 weeks, we will have the 5-year forecast on February 23rd. We'll present the 5-year forecast. And then in a little more than a month, it's hard to believe we're back around to this again, but we will have a trial budget for community review that will then lead into April and our community budget hearings. So thank you, Mayor, for the moment to talk about the beginning of budget season, and look forward to working with you and every member of the council and the community on this important project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We next turn to a state and federal government update. There are an enormous number of things happening at the state and federal level, and today we will only have a window on just a few parts of that, but I think an important update. I will introduce Government Relations Director Frank Mccoon. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Mayor and Council. Today we have a quick presentation. We know we're the warm-up act for the big presentation today, so we will do a quick couple points on Governor Ducey's state budget proposal presented by our Manager of State Relations, Lauren Armour, and then Eric Godinho, the Manager of Federal Relations, will present on the proposed budget, Biden aid package. And just a reminder on both, these are both proposed, still working through the system, and not in, like the governor's budget proposal isn't even in a format to view on paper at this point, but they're just points we wanted to share with you all so that you're aware of some of the positives and some of the tough impacts on the city were they to go through as presented. So with that, we will hand it to Lauren to present on the governor's state budget proposal. Lauren?
Yes, thank you, Frank. I'll be talking about the fiscal year 2022 Arizona Executive Budget Proposal, just giving an overview as it relates to the city. Next slide, please. There's a total appropriation of $12.6 billion in proposed general fund spending this year. The governor's priorities in how that money is spent include an income tax cut proposal, K-12 education support, higher education, public safety, capital and infrastructure, and health and welfare initiatives. Next slide, please. One of the major facets of the governor's proposal that will have a significant impact on the city is his proposed income tax cut. He's proposed an ongoing $600 million income tax cut that would begin at that $600 amount in fiscal year 2024. It starts in fiscal year 2022 initially with a $200 million cut, increasing to a $400 million cut in fiscal year 2023. So those first 3 years altogether equals a $1.2 billion cut, and then it will be $600 million ongoing from that point. This would reduce the city's shared revenue by $52.2 million over the next 3 years, a total of a 6% reduction. And the ongoing reduction would be $26.1 million per year in shared revenue. Next slide, please. Several other items will have an impact on the city as far as the budget's concerned. The convention center's debt payment was covered as usual in the budget, despite reduced revenue due to COVID-19. That's a total amount of $24.5 million. There was an allocation of $5 million to fully fund the Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund Program, better known as WARF. Next slide. There was a $5.3 million appropriation to access for serious mental illness supportive housing services. Those were the only funds in the governor's proposal related to housing. There were $64 million appropriated for an ongoing program to widen I-17. And there are $16 million each year from fiscal year 2022 to 2024 to update public safety radio networks. That's the conclusion of my portion of the presentation. I will pass it to my colleague, Eric Godinho, to present on federal COVID relief, and I'll be happy to take your questions after he presents.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As you may know, the White House and congressional Democrats are eager to move quickly on another round of COVID relief and will use President Biden's proposed $1.9 trillion package known as the American Rescue Plan as the foundation for this legislation. Let me emphasize that the current plan is limited on detail and is likely to be altered and subject to negotiations on Capitol Hill in the weeks ahead. The president's plan includes 3 main categories of proposals: COVID response. Next slide, please. COVID response and healthcare measures, relief to workers and families, and support for small businesses and governments. Next slide, please. The COVID response and healthcare measures portions of the plan urges Congress to approve $415 billion in emergency spending on a number of measures. Some of these include $50 billion to expand testing efforts, $30 billion for Federal Disaster Relief Fund, $20 billion in a national vaccination program in partnership with state and local governments, $4 billion to expand access to mental health and substance abuse services, and the recruitment of 100,000 public health care workers to conduct vaccine outreach and contract tracing in the immediate term, and in the long term, transition into community healthcare roles. Next slide, please. The plan also includes roughly $1 trillion for policies aimed at economic recovery through efforts to aid workers and families. Some key provisions include providing an additional $1,400 per person in direct financial assistance, extend federal unemployment insurance benefits through September, extend the eviction and foreclosure moratorium until September 2021. Next slide, please. $30 billion in rental and energy and water assistance for families, $40 billion for childcare support and development, and increasing the national minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 per hour. Next slide. And with the stated goal to aid small businesses and support government services, the plan also proposes $440 billion for the following: $350 billion in direct state and local and territorial funding, $170 billion for educational stabilization, $35 billion in small business financing programs, and $20 billion for public transit agencies. Next slide. And while the bulk of the proposals address the effects of the pandemic, it also includes measures to address recent cybersecurity attacks, over $9 billion to modernize and secure federal information technology. Several of the relief provisions included in the COVID legislation package that became law in December will expire in March. And accordingly, Congress will likely aim to pass another relief bill before those provisions expire. And although the plan includes certain executive actions, the vast majority of proposals are dependent on Congress enacting legislation. And while the president has indicated his preference to enact the package with bipartisan support in the Senate, Democrats in Congress are laying plans to pass the package through budget reconciliation should bipartisan negotiations break down. Again, let me reiterate that the current plan is limited on details and is likely to be altered and subject to negotiations in the weeks ahead. We will continue to track this legislation as it moves through the legislative process, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have at this time.
Wonderful. Thank you to Eric, Frank, and Lauren for the important and excellent updates. I think the state budget update is important, and I hope that council will send a strong message that we are doing very important work at the city because of a long-standing multi-decade agreement. The state does collect income tax on our behalf, and we receive it through state shared revenues. But as they contemplate their budget, we are using that revenue very efficiently that we receive through state shared revenues, and that they should look elsewhere as they move forward with their budget. So I'd certainly welcome any of my colleagues who can share the message with the legislators who represent your districts or other legislators with whom you have a relationship. I'm also hopeful as the budget goes through its process that we will see significant funding for the state housing trust fund. Zero is not where we need to be during so many challenges, which we'll touch on in the next portion of our meeting. But as this council has said over and over again, housing is a huge challenge for Maricopa County, and we need great partners at every level of government to be able to get through it. Certainly on the federal side, the additional programs to help people with energy bills and $1,400 payments, rent assistance will also help us get through this. So I am hopeful that Congress can get that bill passed and help address the impacts of COVID-19, as well as that additional funding to make sure we have mitigation and then vaccination when that becomes more available for a higher part of our population. So we look forward to working with the state and the federal government to have appropriate tools with these incredibly challenging times. Council member comments.
Mayor, may I ask a question that's unrelated to what you just said, but relates to what these guys do?
Wonderful. I'm hopeful we won't get to everything government is doing, because I don't know that we can, it's fair to them, but go for it.
In fact, I appreciate you saying that. So this isn't a question I expect an answer to today, but there are election bills bouncing around. And I'm just curious, and we don't need briefings on really any of them now, but if one or two of them passes, I'd like to know how they affect the city. So not today, but at some point in the future, that would be kind of important to us. So that's it.
There you go. Councilmember Waring, we have eyes on all of those bills and we are reviewing them for city impacts. We have identified some that may have a city impact and we're looking further into those to evaluate them, and we will keep you posted.
Certainly timely, though, as the city begins an election with voting starting tomorrow. All right, well, thank you for those important updates, and we'll continue to watch our partners at other levels of government as we work together. Appreciate your hard work on those issues. Thank you. And now we will get to, I think, an event or a series of votes
Mayor?
that the, yes.
Mayor, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have a member of the public to address the council. Thank you so much to our city clerk. Mark Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
Hello, Mayor Gallego and everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hey, it's Mark Rodriguez. It's good to hear from you again. And I was wondering that you were talking about everything, about all this Congress and all that stuff, and everything that that's what we're having planned for here in Phoenix. And I hope everything is doing well, that everything is doing fine and all that. And all that conversation and for that and for here in my Levine home. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. It's good to hear from you, Mayor. It's because this is the second time I spoke to you and all the city councils, and then because I always love what the people that in the community in Phoenix, that I'm autistic, that I'm just living with my mom, but because I am so happy that I'm good to have a conversation for you, and then all that other stuff. And that's all for me, Mayor. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mark, so much. Good to hear from you. With that, we will move on to our second agenda item, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and I will welcome Jeff Barton, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. We're really excited to be able to present to you this proposal on how we want to distribute, or how we plan to distribute, the $51.1 million in emergency rental assistance program funds that we receive from the United States Treasury. With me today are Inger Erickson, Deputy City Manager, Marshall Franklin, Human Services Director, and Cynthia Zwick, Executive Director of Wildfire. Today's presentation is going to walk you through our proposal, how we arrived at that proposal, and the things that we learned from the last time and how we applied that to what we're laying out here for you today. But overall, the past 12 months, we've learned a great deal administering the Coronavirus Relief Fund Rent, Mortgage, and Utility Assistance Program. So again, after talking to you extensively for the past year, we know that the first thing on your mind is making sure that we distribute these funds as fast and as efficiently as possible to those Phoenix residents that are in need. And so that's what this plan is designed to do. Next, what we did is we looked at all the options available to us. As you may know, some cities have taken the state up on their offer to administer the program on their behalf. While that program does have some benefits, we looked at it and evaluated it from the standpoint of what do we trade off by doing that. Number one, we'd be participating in a program that does not put Phoenix residents first, and we want to make sure that our residents come first in this program. And so we kind of steered away from that perspective. Also, we did have some concerns about the state using a brand new portal that they've never used before, and we know that they did have some challenges administering the unemployment insurance assistance program through their last portal. The next thing that we evaluated was whether or not we could evaluate or distribute these funds 100% exclusively in-house with human services staff. Again, there would be some benefit to doing that operationally. We, again, control our own destiny. The downside to that is our reach is very limited. And so, again, we think that there would be a benefit to bringing on someone else to help us with this program. The third option that we evaluated was looking at a third-party contractor to exclusively run this program for us, and much the same as if we did it by ourselves. Again, it's a very myopic view, but we think we could leverage it by having more than one hand in the pot distributing the funds. So in the end, our proposal is to kind of do a hybrid approach. You know, the Phoenix way is to find the best way out there, and our hybrid approach is to jointly administer this program using internal human services staff and the staff from Wildfire. Today, you'll hear from Cynthia Zwick talking exclusively about what she learned last time, distributing almost $29 million on our behalf. This program, we think it leverages the expertise of our existing staff in-house who have a passion for doing this type of work and delivering this type of service. But we also benefit from using Cynthia and her extensive network of community partners who may be able to access folks that we just on our own may not be able to, because some people in the community do have a fear of government and turning over certain information to the government, and we think Cynthia bridges that gap for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Inger Erickson, who will walk you through the first part of this presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. So just a quick overview of the Coronavirus Relief Fund program. We were able, with the $29.2 million that Jeff mentioned, to serve over 5,700 households through the assistance of rental and mortgage and utility assistance. And so there was a positive impact because of the COVID pandemic for those people that were impacted. For the 2021 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we received the $51.1 million, as Jeff mentioned, and we did receive that on January 19th. So staff has been working to set up the new program that has more specific restrictions around who is eligible to receive the assistance, as well as some more stringent reporting requirements that Marshall will go into in just a moment on a later slide. It's important to note that mortgage assistance is not allowed in this program. However, rent and utility assistance is still eligible. Additionally, there is an area median income requirement that was not part of the Coronavirus Relief Fund program. The guidelines that govern the 2021 Emergency Rental Assistance Program include assistance that can be offered for rental in arrears payments, rental payments going forward with recertification every 3 months, and for rent or utilities during the period of time of March 13th, 2020 through December 31st, 2021. There is, however, a 15-month maximum per household, and landlords can apply on behalf of a tenant provided they get the tenant's signature and supporting documentation to prove eligibility. There is not a cap on what a household is eligible to receive. 90% of the available direct services, however, will be for direct services, and 10% can be considered for administrative and case management costs. The city plans to have a go-live date no later than March 8th of 2021, as we recently learned that the eviction moratorium also was extended to March 31st of 2021. To go into more detail about the comparison between the two programs, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Mayor, members of the council, as the resident expert, I think, on the Coronavirus Relief Fund after 12 months, I want to walk you through kind of the comparison of these two programs, because you will hear us kind of reference the two throughout this presentation today. So the first part, again, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, you allocated about $29.2 million under the Rent, Mortgage, and Utility Assistance Program. And under the the emergency rental assistance program that we just received from the Treasury, we've got $51.1 million, as Inger mentioned. Again, administrative cap, so the amount of funds that we're allowed to pay for admin costs, not direct services. Under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, that cap was 20%. Under the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, that cap has been reduced to 10%. The focus here is on ensuring that most of the majority of the funds go to direct services. The income requirements, as Inger mentioned, under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, there were no income requirements. It made that program a lot easier to administer. We did not have to verify incomes. All we really had to do was verify that individuals had a COVID impairment. Under the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, as Inger mentioned, and you'll hear a lot more about in this presentation, we do have to substantiate and show consistency with area median income. Rent assistance, again, was allowed under the Coronavirus Relief Fund. The difference between this program, as both of them allow rental assistance, is that under the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, landlords are allowed to apply on behalf of their residents. As Inger mentioned, under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, mortgage assistance was allowed. However, under this program, it is not. This program is exclusively dedicated to those who rent. Utility assistance was allowed under both programs and is allowed under this one as well. Past due payments, both programs allow for past due payments. However, one thing that we have to be careful of under this new program is that we are not allowed to duplicate payments that someone received in the past for the same service. So if someone received coronavirus relief funds for the period of March, April through May for utility assistance, we cannot give them those same months under this program. So we have to be able to clearly delineate what we're paying for versus what we paid for previously. Future payments. Under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, we were allowed to give residents a lump sum. And if they had past due bills, they could apply it to that, but they could also, if had any left over, they could apply those to forward-looking and prospective bills. Under the ERA program, you also can pay forward. However, you're only allowed to pay forward 3 months at a time. And this is where things start to get really onerous and labor-intensive from a staffing perspective, because every 3 months, those residents have to come in and recertify. So again, it's like going through another review, and that is a little labor-intensive for the staff internally, as well as for Cynthia Zwick's staff that have to go through and recertify these individuals as well. Finally, quarterly reporting. Our friends at the Treasury, they require that we do quarterly reporting on both programs. Denise Olson oversaw that for me on the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and it was labor intensive, but this next program is going to be even more labor intensive on the quarterly reporting standpoint. Primarily because we have to disaggregate data, meaning that we have to track almost every aspect of this program. We have to track who gets the funds by gender, by race, as well as income levels. We also have to track acceptance rates. So those things also become very, very labor intensive for us to capture that data, monitor that data, as well as report it back to the United States Treasury.
Thank you, Jeff. Mayor, members of the council, in order to be eligible for these funds, the individual must be a resident of the city of Phoenix, have an income below 80% of the area median income, which for a family of 4 is $62,250, as well as must demonstrate a reduction in household income due to the COVID-19 impact. Within those who meet the eligibility requirements, the program also requires that we prioritize those individuals whose household income is below 50% of the area median income, which for a family of 4 is $38,900, or have been unemployed for more than 90 days. As Jeff previously mentioned, there are stringent reporting requirements for this particular program. Those are quarterly reports, as he referenced, to Treasury on gender, race, and ethnicity of the primary applicant, the number of individuals served, the types of services provided, the income breakdown of households by the 30%, 50%, and 80% of the area median income, the average household payment, as well as the acceptance rate. I will now turn the presentation over to Cynthia, who will provide an overview of the lessons learned from last year's allocation of this type of assistance.
Mayor Gallego and members of the council, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the opportunity that we had to partner with you and the NSD team for the CARES Act program. It was a wonderful opportunity for the partners with which we worked, and we're grateful to have been part of the process. What we are looking at this time around and what we've learned from the last program that we administered is that applicants are struggling and continue to struggle, and they will apply in as many places as they can, as many times as they can, until they feel that they are getting the support that they need. We are working to manage expectations through the rollout of this program, but the need is extreme and the resources remain insufficient to serve everyone in this community that needs help. The system that has been created over time in the city of Phoenix and throughout Arizona is being stressed, and the need, as I said, continues to be great, but we are up to the task and look forward to going forward. The other thing that we know is essential, we knew this before, but we learned this again through this process, is communication and information is essential. People get very frustrated when they're applying for these programs and they don't know whether their application's been received or where they stand in the queue. So knowing that and having that information helps substantially. And then they also want to know if there isn't an opportunity or if there isn't funding remaining in the program that we're administering, where else can we go? So there are a number of resources that have been developed throughout the community over the last, I would say, 4 to 6 months that are standing up and will be available to families that are looking for additional support as this process unfolds. I should say we have reached out preliminarily to the partners that we have been engaged with over the last it seems like a long time, 10 months, 8 months, and most of them are interested in working with us again as we go forward with this more complicated program, including organizations like CPLC, Pilgrim Rest, St. Vincent de Paul, and many others. And I just want to thank our partners for the work that they did. It really wasn't us, it was the partners in the community who are trusted by the community members that have really had the impact that we've been able to have in partnership with the Human Services Department and the Neighborhood Services Department. So thank you again for that opportunity.
Thank you, Cynthia. So how will funding be distributed? As Jeff again previously mentioned, staff proposes allocating $26.1 million to the Human Services Department and $25 million to our partners with wildfire, with 90% of those funds, as Inger stated, going for direct services and 10% of those for administrative and case management costs. Again, as mentioned earlier, the reason why it is proposed to split the allocation is for several reasons, including the ability to administer these funds in a much more broader way, utilizing both the City of Phoenix and wildfire's multiple contractor agencies and reach and connections within our community. There's also a second reason, which has to do with entry point and process. Under this proposed model, the applicant will have 2 entry points. That can be by phone or via a portal. Feedback that we have received is that some individuals prefer that their initial engagement for these types of services to be via phone, while others have expressed a preference to do so electronically. Also, we believe that additional 2 entry points allows us to not have to depend upon only one way to serve our residents. One entry point, if you will, can support the other if necessary. However, after the initial entry point, the process will be the same, regardless of whether an individual is coming through the phone or through the portal. The application will be assessed, and if determined eligible, supporting documentation is provided, then the services will be delivered. It should be noted that the Human Services Department and wildfire subcontractor agencies will not be asking about citizenship or immigration status of any household member and will not be asking for a Social Security number. Also, the Human Services Department and wildfire subcontractor agencies will accept various ways to verify the identity, including documents such as medical school or employment records, federal issued documents or work permits, consular IDs, and those are just to name a few. And surely HSD and agency staff will be fully trained to ensure that there is no discrimination in providing these services to those in our community who are in need. And then specific to service delivery, there are multiple checks and balance systems in place to ensure that there will not be duplication of services for our residents that are being served between the Human Services Department and Wildfire. And then finally, Human Services and Wildfire have a very close partnership and will continue to work closely with each other in meeting the needs of our residents, whether the residents are applying by phone, whether they're applying through the portal. This also includes regularly scheduled meetings that we've had in the past and will continue to have in terms of checking in with each other as we move forward in this partnership if this proposal is approved. Now, for those in our community who are seeking assistance who may not have a level of comfort with technology or do not have access to technology, opportunities for in-person appointments will be made available at our 3 family services centers, one which is located in Maryville at 51st Avenue and Osborne, one that's located in Sunny Slope at 9th Avenue and Hatcher, and then one in the south central area of our city at Broadway Road and Central Avenue. Finally, we do have a very robust marketing and outreach plan. As Cynthia mentioned, one of the key things is to ensure those in our community who have need know how to access these services. So we do plan a robust marketing and outreach plan. It includes things such as all of our flyers being provided in both English and Spanish, ensuring that the City of Phoenix logo is printed on all materials and on all appropriate websites. Of course, our Human Services Department and our Wildfire web pages have information. Obviously, we want to make sure that we are including this information for mayor and city council offices to include in newsletters, as well as we are working on having something go into the city services bill and a couple of other opportunities, including, if you will, running along the bottom of Channel 11's programming, something that talks about these services, in addition to a couple of other opportunities. We are also, as it relates to our outreach plan, Wildfire, as Cynthia mentioned, and its subcontractor social service agencies will obviously be pushing this information out as well. We also will be ensuring that we work with local advocacy groups and community networks such as Community Legal Services, our faith-based organizations, our refugee and asylee communities, our landlord and housing associations, with the focus on ensuring that we're reaching some of our smaller landlords who may only have 1 or 2, if you will, apartments or houses that they are renting out, as well as our justice courts. And then, of course, through our city departments, such as our neighborhood services, parks and recreation, and our human services department programs, including our Head Start, our senior programs through our for our senior center members, our workforce development participants, and even those who are accessing services through our family advocacy center. And I will now turn the presentation back over to Inger.
Mayor, members of the council, before we get to the recommendation slide, I want to emphasize to you again that we, as staff, we know that people are suffering in our community. We know that people are in need. We don't know how many, but we know that people are in need. And we stand before you today extremely excited about the opportunity to be the lifeline to those folks. We have an opportunity here, and we are privileged to provide this opportunity to the residents of Phoenix. And with that, I'll turn it over to Inger for our recommendation.
So with that presentation, staff recommends City Council approval for $26.1 million to be distributed through the Human Services Department and $25 million through Wildfire and its associated agencies to deliver the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. This would include a bi-weekly monitoring to adjust allocations based on the expenditure trends if necessary.
Mayor, I would move approval of staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Well, thank you so much to our staff for their work on this, but also your hard work on our first program, which helped more than 5,500 Phoenix families with rent and mortgage assistance and distributed over $22 million. So we have a good model on which to build, and we can only go from there, learning more and helping so many folks in need. I really want to say thank you for that outreach effort and saying we're going to try to get those who are medically vulnerable older adults, families with children at home. I think it's such a, eviction is traumatic regardless, but with young children, really, really hard. And so the more we can keep folks in there and help families, that is wonderful. I would ask that as much as possible, the aid be directed to renters who are currently in arrears. So those folks with back rent, we want to help these individuals get current, and their landlords have done the right thing if they've not been evicted. We know there's an eviction moratorium in place, but we also know people continue to be evicted despite that. So if we can try to do well by those folks who have not evicted, I think that would be good news, and just wonderful that we are providing aid to 1,000 more Phoenicians who need it. With that, I'll turn to Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll second all your points. I'm glad we worked to simplify it. So I had some questions around, I think the digital divide and the elderly one is really important. We're seeing a lot of issues with the vaccine right now. And so wondering, I know we're gonna have sites that are open. Are we gonna be able to do some of the work through the phone, or there's gonna be other ways for them to get documents to us? Just talking to folks that have both digital divide and transportation holding them back, especially during the pandemic. If there's gonna be any way that maybe we could do some visits, maybe send some of our folks, and I know not to individual homes, but maybe to some of our senior centers, to some of those locations. So yeah, just Marshall, if you could talk a little bit more about lessons learned from last time and how you see our sites being able to be accommodating those folks.
So Mayor Gallego and Councilmember Garcia, thank you for that question. Yes, in fact, we are open and willing to be and provide as many opportunities to meet our community needs right where they're at. So as an example, if we needed to take a look at could we provide some services not only at our family service centers, but also at our senior centers, if you will, for an example, we do have the ability to be able to do that and can work on a plan where we determine what those facilities would look like, the location of those facilities, and then be able to publish that information as well. Also, Councilmember Garcia, to your point about those and the digital divide, that is why we, obviously have the telephone and then the in-person. We also, if we need to, can create ways where we're doing it socially distancing and being sensitive to COVID, where we can assist individuals in person if need be, if they are struggling even with that initial approach. And we would rely upon any feedback or direction if you all are receiving or hearing that for us to be able to follow up directly on that.
Okay. The following up on something that the mayor touched upon, which I think is really important, the eviction piece. Maricopa County is leading the country right now on evictions. And one of the questions I had asked in our briefing was around us being able to work with the courts or the justice of the peace, or figuring out how we have a relationship where we can catch those folks that are already in the eviction process and try to put those folks in the front of the line.
So Mayor Gallego and Councilmember Garcia, we in the Human Services Department, and I know as well some of the subcontractor agencies that Wildfire will be working with have a relationship with Community Legal Services. We also have the City of Phoenix, a very close relationship, if you will, with the administrator and the staff within the justice court system, so the Maricopa Justice Court System. Community Legal Services, as well as the justice courts, have been very clear with us about wanting to ensure that we are doing all we can, the collective we, meaning our courts, community legal services, those who provide services in this area, to not end up with individuals being evicted. So a collective effort on education, outreach. We do have a program where Community Legal Services is available when folks are at our justice courts to immediately assist them. Some of that has been altered slightly because the justice courts, and I still believe that is the case, I can verify, are not conducting court cases in person. They're doing them telephonically, so that has been somewhat of a challenge. But again, we do have the commitment in meetings and conversations we have had with staff from the justice court system and community legal services to ensure that we are doing our best to make that individuals have access, and that we are trying to mitigate where they eventually end up in that actual eviction process.
Thank you. Last question I have before comments. So in this situation, the renter can actually ask for assistance this time. Is there a relationship that can be had with the utility companies in that same manner, where the utility companies, who are the ones who have all the data and know who's delinquent, who they're about to shut off? And I'm reminded, I think a couple of weeks ago, early January, we had SRP lift their kind of eviction of shutdowns, and we had thousands of people had to rush to the pay stations. Councilwoman Guardado was out there trying to figure out, support folks, and she's the one who let us know. So again, question is, do we have a relationship connection, and then is there an ability for utility companies to either ask or provide a list of folks who are about to be shut off or who have already been shut off, so that we can also prioritize those folks that have the most need?
Mayor Gallego, Councilman Garcia, if I may. I think that's a great idea. The utilities all have lists of who is delinquent, how long, how far they're delinquent, and what the amount owed on their accounts is, and they also know when they're coming to be scheduled for disconnection. We have great relationships with them. I think the city staff, Human Services Department does as well, and we are happy to facilitate a way to exchange information to allow the support to be more easily and more effectively presented to the customer. I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay. All right, thank you all. I mean, again, like my colleagues want to commend you for all the work of getting the money out last time and expediting this time. Again, hopefully this time with no problems, we'll be able to serve all residents of the city of Phoenix, as opposed to last time. I think this is really exciting for us. Thank you for your work. Thank you for learning and bettering the process for this next time. And I guess we'll be voting obviously yes or to this. So thank you all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado, followed by Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I also want to thank you guys for all the great work, and I know that it's been a learning curve. It's been a learning curve for all of us this last year, and trying to figure out how do we help our most vulnerable populations, and how do we help everyone, making sure that they can stay in their homes and we can provide them with some help with utility bills. And I just wanted to ask a follow-up to what Councilmember Garcia was talking about in terms of electricity bills. I was just and wanted to know what would that process look like, because we made a couple of phone calls and spoke with SRP. They're the ones that they're the providers mainly for the west side and majority of my constituents. And we just found out that as of right now, in the city of Phoenix, we have 45,000 delinquent accounts just with SRP, and it's about $22.4 million in debt that we have, and people's bills right now that are delinquent are about $497. So definitely would be interested to knowing how is it that we could maybe accelerate this process a little bit for these folks. The summer is around the corner. And, like Councilmember Garcia mentioned, a few weeks ago, I was at the Fry's on 67th and Indian School, and there must have been, close to 100 people wanting to pay their bill because they had been disconnected, and I heard that it was a glitch and it was some issue with that SRP was having with their computers. So what can we do? How can we, because definitely not, and I appreciate making sure that you guys have someone that can help people apply at John F. Long over in Maryville. And I think that's going to be helpful. But I do think that maybe we just need to go one step further and trying to figure out how do we coordinate with APS, and I'm sure APS has a lot of the same issues. How do we coordinate with these two companies to try to figure out how do we get to those accounts that really, I mean, everyone needs the help, but there's some people that really need the help and might get disconnected next month. So what are some steps that you guys can take to try to accelerate that process a little bit?
Mayor Gallego and Councilwoman Guardado, a couple of ideas, and the issue that you're presenting is really a little bit more complicated than simply connecting back-end systems with utility companies, but I think there are a couple things that can be done. One is that if there is an opportunity and the customer approves it, there's an ability to share information with the city, and the city can leverage the LIHEAP funding that they have available and make that assistance available pretty quickly, I think. The other thing is, if the individual is applying, or if the company knows the individual is delinquent, there's a very good chance that they're also getting behind on their rent, and outreach can be done directly from the utility company and in partnership with both us and the partners that we work with, along with the human services staff. So I think that there are a number of ways to make those connections so that they're not just overlooked from a utility perspective, but they also get the rental assistance funding. I think it'll take a discussion to make sure that we can get all those pieces buttoned up, but I think there are a number of ways that can happen, including the utility assistance money that they make available.
Great. Okay, well, just keep me posted on that. I'm definitely very interested in helping in whichever way that we can. It makes me a little nervous that, summer, like I said, summer's around the corner, and we need to figure out how do we make sure that people are not living in their homes when it could be 120 inside their homes. Like I would like for us to get ahead of that as much as we can. But again, thank you for all the work that you guys do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Kudos to everybody that is delivering these services in such a swift and not so easy way, but you're doing it as quickly as you possibly can. So I would like to thank all those nonprofits and the city employees that are delivering these services. I have questions and then I have statements. So we received a letter from the Arizona Multi-Housing, and when I spoke with them to try to understand what the letter and the purpose was, it was due out of, I would say, some frustration because several of renters were having difficulty, as you had stated earlier, Cynthia, was getting frustrated through the process and will go to wherever they need to go to try to get their paperwork in. And definitely communication is key, not knowing if they received the information correctly, if there was any follow-up. So that's a learned lesson in this process that we went through, I would say. And so I'm hoping that between Wildfire and the city, that closes the gap definitely with the communication piece. And I have great hopes that that's going to happen. So they were requesting, the Arizona Multi-Housing was requesting to put that money towards the state system, because then it was easier to go to one system in order to deliver those services. So that was really why that letter came about, out of frustration. And I hope we were able to lift what we need to lift and be able to get people through as quickly as possible. The second piece is the rental piece. I did a spot check pretty much in the last 15 minutes and called the 534 aid, and I decided to see how that operated. In the rental piece, what it basically told me is there are no more appointments and you need to call Monday. So I'm hoping that the messaging will be changed and there's no walk-ups to visit the Family Assistance Center if they need to do walk-ups. The other piece is, this is where I struggle with the appointments only on Monday. Somehow we need to figure out how we open that in a broader sense so we can serve more people in the community. On the utilities assistance, I want to thank Donna because she was able to get me an appointment on Friday between 7 and 8 a.m. So I want to thank Donna for doing that for me. But as we're moving through this and we were having the dialogue of the utilities piece, how would that look like? What would be the process of that? And working with the utility companies and the city and wildfire and connecting it all together, because that's a process piece. And I right now, you probably don't have the answer, but I would like to know that answer on how that's going to be processed and how it's seamless. I look at it as a first one-stop shop type of service that could possibly be happening. I know we're creating it on the fly, but I'm hoping that we can get there. And the last piece where I have a question really, Mesa is starting to deliver their services. So I want to know how quickly we will be administering or delivering our services. When is that date? For both, for wildfire and the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Gallego and Councilwoman Pastor, our go-live date is March 8th of 2021. And that includes both the City of Phoenix and its process, as well as wildfire and its respective process.
And Councilwoman Pastor, I think to your other point that you brought up, we can certainly work on our messages on the phone number to add that if people can't get an appointment today, they can call back Monday, or they can we can connect them to the wildfire portal and give them that direction as well. So I think we will make sure that our two systems are linking back and forth as you discussed.
Yeah, because my worry is I'm a phone person, so I like to call and talk to a live person to make sure my stuff is moving, and then I get names and then I call back and everything else. So I'm part of that generation. But if I have to go on a portal and I have access to it, which I do, then I'll do the portal. A lot of people don't have the ability to do both. So I just want to make sure we don't lose people in the process of trying to call on Monday. And most of the calls, most of the complaints I get are, I've been calling and by 10 o'clock, all the appointments are taken. So I think there needs to be some follow through with those that are calling and then somebody calling back and setting future appointments instead of them always having to call on Monday.
Mayor and Councilwoman Pastor, certainly we're going to look at that and see how we can effectively make a change there as well.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. And thank you all to the folks who are working in person at the Family Service Centers to try to do those appointments. This council unanimously approved some safety upgrades to try to make those good work environments. And some of my colleagues and I have been trying to advocate that we move up in vaccine priority, those individuals who are working, because if you are helping someone stay housed, that sounds pretty essential to me during a pandemic. So thank you to those folks who are working in person to help us help this community. Any additional council comments? All right, I'm going to do a voice vote while we are in policy, and then we will end policy and convene a formal where we will do the roll call vote so we can get moving as quickly as possible. All those in favor of Vice Mayor Williams' motion to approve this program, please signal aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Wonderful. It passes with 1 opposed. And with that, we will adjourn the policy meeting of the Phoenix City Council and convene formal. Will the clerk please call the formal meeting roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Will the clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinance numbered S47291.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Welcome to our formal meeting session. This is about as good news of a formal from my perspective as we're going to have. It'll be great to get this $51 million out into our community to help our residents. Does staff have any additional comments before we vote? All right. Will the clerk please call, or I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
I would move staff's recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any council member comments? Roll call.
After the March 8th.
Yes.
DeCiccio. Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. I apologize. Waring.
Waring.
Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to all the folks working on this. We are adjourned.